Hello everybody out there, John McClain in here, and this is another episode of listening to me talk like I know what I'm talking about and hoping that you pay attention for the entire video. On this episode we're talking about movement. Now, while we're still talking about the Dryfire setting, in order to actually prove the points, I had to go out and do some live fire filming. That is why you don't see me in my jersey and gun belt and gun and all that kind of stuff, because for the majority of this episode, actually for the rest of the episode, basically what we're going to show is certain drills that I did to prove points that I want to prove so that you can get the benefit of understanding why it's important to practice things such as drawing and moving and actually doing reload drills while you're moving and how much you can actually move and still not really lose much time, if at all. It doesn't make sense right now. I promise it will make sense after you've seen the following clips. So bear with me for a moment. Might get a little confusing with all the numbers that start getting thrown around, but I promise you I'll try to make it as simple as possible, and I hope you guys get and understand quite a bit about all of the aspects that I'm about to discuss with you. So we're going to go ahead and cut over to the clips of me outdoor shooting. Okay, so first things first, the stage breakdown. I have an open IPSC target approximately 8 yards from me. I've got 3 sticks on the ground. Those sticks are going to be 4 feet apart from each other. Okay, so for the duration of this video, that's going to be the stage setup. The other thing I want you to take into consideration are the splits are pretty consistent. At no point was I below a 2-0 or a 3 and above a 3-0. So splits, while they factor a little bit, they're not a huge factor in it, okay? So we're going to talk about this first portion right now. What you'll notice in this clip is I'm just drawing the gun while standing static and then moving to my left and moving to my right. Now I'm going to show you in this next, slowdown segment here what to look for. If you notice that when I'm drawing my gun, there's actually quite a lot of upper body movement, and yet I'm not doing any lower body movement. Now while that can help facilitate a quick draw and quick shots on target, I'm standing there not doing anything. Okay, so for me, that's going to be considered wasted time. And we're going to discuss exactly how much time is wasted when we bring up these numbers here. You'll notice my first shot's a 142, the movement's a 154 to the left, then a movement 181 all the way to the right for a total time of 557. Okay, so obviously I had more movement from left all the way to the right. But now we're going to show you how much time you can actually save by drawing and moving at the same time. So here you can see on my draw, I moved immediate to the left, go to the middle, and then stop all the way to the right. Okay, so what you'll notice here, one is that my head is aimed to where I need to go so that I can see visually where my feet need to land. And then as I'm drawing my gun, I'm getting it set up, getting everything prepped up, okay, doing the meet and greet, bringing the sights up. And as soon as I'm settled, I'm breaking my shot, moving, breaking my shots, moving to the last position, breaking my shots. That gives me my first shot of a 148, movement to 113, and then a movement to 112. So a total time is 447. That's pretty much an entire second faster than just standing still and shooting. So I've already saved an entire second. Okay, just to prove the point again, I'm going to do it again, but this time I'm moving right to left. Same drill, just again mirror option or mirror image, and again that time, as we're going to see coming up at the end, is a 443, which the last one was a 447. So almost the exact same time. Movement and everything's going to be the same. So first shot of 157, movement 106, and movement 115. So even with slight, minute changes, I still saved a second as opposed to just standing still and shooting the first target and then moving and then having to do a big movement. Now, where does this not make sense to do? Now in this scenario, I'm starting on the left, going to the middle, then finishing on the right. Now I'm drawing while I'm standing still, which is obviously what we don't want to be we're not talking about, right? We're trying to discuss how we can save time by drawing on the move. Now when is it going to be contradictory is going to be in this situation where I'm starting in a position where the target's only going to be presented to me in that position, and I never pass that position again. For this run, it's going to be a 1:16 for the first shot, a 1:22 for the movement, and a 1:18. My total time is going to be 4:27. It's going to be the exact same time as when I draw on the move, moving left or right. And what I'm going to show you here, we're going to go back to the other video here real quick, is that the reason is, again, I'm starting in the middle. When I draw to the middle and I shoot, then move left, and then move all the way to the right, I'm skipping the middle position again. Okay? So here I'm stopping to shoot the target because the target is presented to me in that position again. Whereas in the other video, where I'm starting on the left, that is the only time I'm going to have to be at that position to engage that target. Therefore, it makes sense to draw my gun standing still and shooting at that target because, again, I'm not going to have to go back to that position. I'm starting left, I'm finishing right. As you can see here, I'm starting left, I'm going to draw the gun, I'm going to shoot the target, and that's it. I'm gone. I'm done. I'm never going to be back in that position. Okay, so if it is a target that you will not be seeing again, you're not going to pass by it again through the course of fire, then yes, it does make sense sometimes to stand still as you draw your gun and shoot the target. Although, what I will say with that is that I will still actually do a little bit of movement just to get going in the general direction of where I need to go. Okay, so the next thing we're going to talk about is how much can we actually cover in our draw. In this position, I'm starting all the way to the right. I'm going to go to the left, middle, and then finish again on the right. And what you're going to see here is how much time that actually cost me, which is not a lot. From the time the buzzer goes off, okay, I am moving 8 feet to get into my first position. My first shot is a 185 as opposed to a 157, 148, and a 142 from the last 3 strings, or last 4. I'm sorry. The split or the movement times are going to be 0.96 and 0.93. So I saved a little bit more time because I got a little bit more aggressive with my movement, but my total time was still 440. So I was able to cover 8 feet of ground on my draw and still come in at around the same time as everything else. Okay, so next thing we want to talk about is why do we want to practice reloading on the move? Here I'm starting on the far left, going all to the right. This is just to set up the baseline here. My first shot is going to be a 115. The movement all the way to the right is going to be a 172, giving me a total time of 3.42, and those numbers are going to come up in a moment. That's my baseline. Okay, that is how much time it takes for me to traverse all the way to the left, traveling 8 feet to get into the right position, and then engage that target right there. So that's going to be my base. That's going to be my baseline. That's going to be what I set my standard to. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do the exact same drill, except that the movement is also going to have a reload involved in it. So I'm going to be reloading from left to right, and I didn't get video of me going right to left, but you're going to notice here, I draw the gun, shoot, and my reload is done. Okay, that comes down to my first shot of being a 1.22. My movement, and with the reload involved, is a 1.58. So I was actually about 0.2 of a second faster than when I was just running across. Okay, maybe it was a sense of urgency because I was trying to get my reload done or something like that. But my total time comes with 3.28 as opposed to the 3.42 when I'm just running. So that right there shows that the reload on the movement drills matters because when you're moving, again, it's dead time. You're not actively engaging any targets, which means if you can be doing something else, then you should be. And I show that in this setting right here. Okay, so again, we do the drill starting on the left and drawing to the target where I'm only going to see it in that position, so I don't lose a lot of time. First shot's a 1.24, 137 for the movement, 130 for the movement there, giving me a total time of 4.76. Okay, next video. Same thing, starting on the left, except I'm going to reload each time I move, okay? My first shot's a 117. My reload is a 1.36, which is only 1/100th off of the other video. And then my next reload is going to be a 1.33, which is only 3/100th off of my last movement, giving me a total time of 4.46. Okay, so that's about 0.3 again, 0.3 faster with me doing my reloads as opposed to just standing there or just shooting, moving, shooting, moving, shooting. So you can see that doing the reload actually didn't cost me anything. My reloads are done by the time I'm ready to get to my next position and I'm ready to start firing again. Okay, so yeah, just let that digest for a moment. Okay, so I hope that now that you've seen the videos, you kind of understand a little bit of what I'm talking about. There are going to be some times where doing a static draw onto a target is going to make sense, and I want to kind of elaborate a little bit on that. What I mean is that if, for example, we are running a stage where it is going to be a left to right stage and you are starting in the middle, and the very first target you see is directly in front of you, so it's going to be from your point of view right there. Now, what I'm talking about is that in this position, yes, I can draw and engage this target, but I'm going to be moving eventually beyond this position again to see that target so that I can engage it. So if I'm going to have to pass that target and see it again, I might as well shoot it later on, because the draw time from this point is nothing but dead time. All I'm doing is getting my gun out of the holster, establishing my grip, putting the sights on target, prepping the trigger, and then as soon as my sights are aligned, squeezing it. That's all great, fine, and dandy, but I haven't accomplished anything else. And I've got a course of fire that I need to shoot. I'm gonna wanna move as soon as I can. So because I'm gonna see the target again from this position, I'm gonna go ahead and draw on the move. Whether or not I'm going right or left doesn't make a difference. I guess it would if it makes sense in how the course of fire is designed, or if you're a right-handed, left-handed shooter because of your reloads. But the point I wanted to get across there is that because I'm starting in a position where I can see a target that I'm forced to see again throughout the course of fire, in that case, I'm going to move on my draw, because that's going to be at least up to 8 feet, like we discussed. I can cover at least 8 feet of ground during my draw and not really lose all that much time. So I can cover 8 feet of ground and begin shooting, and then as I go through the course of fire, once I get to that target that I've started on to, I'm gonna stop and shoot him, because I'm going through the course of fire, and it's just how it's more cost efficient in time for me to do it that way. As opposed to if I was starting on a stage where I have to start on the left and the target that I see is right there, and I'm starting on the very left fault line, I'm never gonna be on that side of the stage again. In that condition, then yes, it is gonna make sense to draw, engage that target, and then move, because it wouldn't make sense to draw and move to the middle of the stage, shoot, move to the right of the stage, shoot, and then run all the way back to the left side of the stage to engage that target that was there initially for me to see. Okay, so I want you guys to understand the difference and how it is that you can save your time when you're actually doing the drills, or how you're actually saving the time. Now, in the video, we proved that in those situations for that specific setting that I did, I was about a second faster by drawing on the move and then coming back to that position to actually engage the target and then finishing on the stage. When I first got started in the sport, I kind of used to giggle and laugh at the guys that talked about how they were losing 0.2 of a second and 1/10 of a second. And, oh, that reload cost me a half second, and then having to go back for that makeup shot, that was another 0.2 of a second. I used to kind of giggle at those guys because I was like, oh my gosh, they're freaking out over 1/10 of a second. It's just 1/10 of a second. And that was kind of my mindset initially until I got more involved in the sport. And then obviously once I got up into the higher levels, I started being the guy that was talking about 1/10 of a second and 0.2 of a second. And the reason that I became that guy is, as I've said in my other videos, you're not talking about doing just 1/10 of a second one time. You're talking about doing 1/10 of a seconds hundreds of times throughout a major match. Whether or not it's transitions, splits, makeup shots on steel. 1/10 of a second is actually being done, okay? Those little minuscule time differences happen 100 times over a course of a 3-day match. So when we're talking about, let's discuss for a moment. What if we had a match with 10 stages and every stage was a mirror image, and every stage had a target starting right in front of you, and every time you shot that stage, you drew your gun, you shot the target, and then you started to move, as opposed to the guy that moves first and then comes back and engages that target throughout his course of fire and then finishes. What you're talking about is you're automatically giving the gentleman that, let's just say, this just doesn't even have to be a gentleman because there are ladies, there's juniors. You're giving the other shooters
10 seconds right off the bat on a 10-stage match where you decide to stand and shoot the first target and then move, and everyone else decides to move and then shoot the target as they move across. Because we've already proved that I was a second faster to move and then come back to the target than standing still and engaging that. So when you talk about, again, tenths and 2/10 and half seconds, and in this case we're talking about full seconds, those can be the difference sometimes between first and fifth place, or 5th and 15th place, depending on your level of shooter and how skilled you are and how much practice you and time you've put into this sport. Okay, understand that these things do matter, and it's very important to know when is it appropriate to pull out which game plan and which kind of shooting style to help you gain as much as you can from that stage. Same thing when it comes to the reloads. Again, we talked about doing our baseline, which was me starting on the left, shooting, moving all the way to the right, moving 8 feet to the right, and then shooting again. That's going to be my baseline. And we talked about in the dynamic drills about how we wanted to practice not just standing still and reloading, but standing still and reloading while we're turning, and then standing still and reloading while we're moving. And again, the point that I wanted to prove there is that if you can get good enough with your reloads, whether or not you're standing still or whether or not you're moving, okay, what you're going to gain is the fact that when you're moving through a course of fire, that movement is already costing you time. If you can get your reload, drop your mag, insert your new mag, meet and greet, and get your gun presented and ready to go, by the time you get to the next position that you have to start shooting at, the reload doesn't cost you anything. So we're talking about tenths and 2/10. Well, if you don't have your game plan set up right, and you forget to do your reload until you're halfway to that position, then you start doing your reload, then by the time you get to your position, you're still inserting the mag or you're still establishing your grip, that's going to be wasted time, and that's 2/10 of a second. That's a tenth of a second. And when you do that over a period of 3 days for a 10-stage match, if you were to do that once, a tenth of a second mistake, you're giving your competitors another second. That's if you only do 1 reload per stage. Doesn't matter if it's 2, 3, or 4, because now we're just exponentially increasing the amount of time that you're giving up to your competitors. Okay, so what we wanted to discuss was how is it appropriate, or when is it appropriate to move and draw? When is it appropriate to stand static and draw? When is it appropriate to, and it's always appropriate to be able to reload on the move. So remember that when you're doing your dry fire drills, practice drawing on the move, practice reloading on the move. It does make a difference, and it is going to be one of those things that can maybe even potentially bump you up to the next class that you're shooting for. Okay, if you're a D class shooter and you can't figure out what's going on, sometimes little tricks like these are what get oh, excuse me. Sometimes little tricks like these are the things that can tweak you just enough to start to see your performance accelerate to get you up to that next level. All right. So again, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy it, then awesome. Click the like button, click the subscribe button, leave a comment down below. I really appreciate it. I love reading all your guys' comments, regardless if they're good or bad. So if you didn't like the video, then click the dislike button and then click subscribe so that you can see whenever I make up the next stupid video that you are going to point and laugh at with your friends, and share it with all your friends so that they can share it with everyone else, so that, you know, hey, I still get the hits. And then leave your funny comment below. Tell me that I'm a nerd or I'm a dummy or that my hair looks absolutely retarded right now, because I get a rise out of it. So with that being said, guys, thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you picked something up from it. I hope you learned something, and I definitely hope to see you guys on the range.